Hey everybody, welcome to the Resistance broadcast. I'm John. Thanks for joining us on this Monday, June 13th. We are it's almost summertime. And we have a lot of news to get to. This is our first typical Monday show in quite a while, actually.
Yeah.
And we have some news we're going to talk about. If you're looking for our reactions to the latest Kenobi episode and you haven't checked it out yet, we were live this past Wednesday. Check out our full part 4 of Obi-Wan Kenobi on our channel or your preferred podcast app. But here we are to talk about the latest Star Wars news. I'm John. With me as always, James and Lacey. A lot of cool stuff to get into today. But before we get into some giveaway winner announcements, I just want to say hello. How you doing, James? How you doing, Lacey?
I know that I had someone say, have you done your episode yet where you fully talk about Celebration and stuff? And I was like, no. And I also don't know if we're ever going to really have an episode where we just decompress.
Because a bunch of people did do that.
And talk about Celebration. I mean, I guess at this point, we did it around the galaxy, we did that last Friday when that was kind of a decompressive Celebration. So if you want to check that out, we were there. But I kept thinking that was going to happen. And I was like, well, we're doing Kenobi stuff. And then we're just talking about general news. And so it's never really happened. But Celebration was just so much that I'm trying to describe it to people. And I'm like, it's literally just like going to a convention and trying to cover it all. It's impossible. There's so much news flying at you, stuff that would be absolutely our headline top story 2 weeks in a row where we didn't even talk about, on the show at all. It just goes that quickly. There was so much.
And we still have some stuff we're going to post, like those beverages that we tried. I don't think we...
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
Those are going to go up on Patreon, yeah.
Yeah, we keep saying that.
I feel like
we gotta do it.
things we covered, we already put videos out on from Celebration while we were there. The Make Solo 2 Happen meetup was quite publicized. Us meeting Jonas. When we look back, we did sort of pull people into our experience while we were there, so we didn't need to recap it, I feel like.
Well, I'm even talking just stuff there was a bunch of High Republic stuff. There was Tales of the Jedi, and we never really...
Oh, yeah.
We haven't had some of those things would have been in Resistance Report, and we would have had long discussions about them, but there was so much out of Celebration, we just kind of gloss over those things, and we'll talk about them more as they come out, but the announcements of them as they were, or sneak peeks that people saw, it's we'll just have to gloss over some of that stuff because...
Or go to StarWarsNewsNet.com to go get the lowdown.
Yeah, I'm just saying from Resistance broadcast point of view. The information is out there, but the three of us kind of talking about it. We talked about it at Celebration, but yeah, I don't know. It's it was just a lot.
It was a lot. My feet still hurt.
Gotta get that checked out, bud.
That's because James is the Disney guy. If there's one thing I've learned on this trip, it was that Disney is James's thing, and he does a Disney walk.
What time did we get there?
7. You guys got there at 7. I booked it there by 7:15 because you guys told me it was opening at 7:15.
You were there for 14 hours.
So I got there, before they opened the doors, and I stayed all day till they kicked me out at midnight. And I have pictures of me in the dark riding rides, hey,
So those 17 hours at Disney.
Something like that, yeah.
Wow.
John and I went to the bar, which is funny because I told myself I wasn't going to have any beverages on this trip, but man, did I want one after Disney.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah. All right. So, Lacey, what's going on with you? You didn't move yet.
I didn't move yet. I will probably be moved by the next episode.
Live Wednesday?
Live Wednesday, yeah.
Oh,
Wednesday.
You got 2 days to move.
Yeah, no, I'm still... It's funny because we're still recovering, with all the stuff that happened, like James said. I'm still physically... I'm exhausted. Still tired. And but it's like a really interesting tired because I'm like pumped and excited and having a great time, and like there's so much going on. And we're just getting started. Like there's so much more Star Wars coming, which is just
and
the
there's
best.
already another celebration.
We're already planning for next year.
That's
it's
crazy.
Just it kind of like, hit the ground running and then we're still running.
Oh man.
I actually even had another day where I went to Kings Island recently. Like when we spent like a long time at Kings Island.
Yeah.
Which was really cool because they're doing their 50th anniversary and they're doing drones. And I'm like, why is Disney not doing this? This is amazing. Such a cool show.
That would be cool if you're like walking around Galaxy's Edge and like a probe droid like comes cruising by.
Yeah. Do you know what I'm talking about when I say drones though in like a fireworks show?
Well, they did it for the Platinum Jubilee over in England.
Yeah, they just like they put out like, hundreds of them or whatever, and they're all like one little light, but then they pattern and move objects and 3D
that's
and stuff.
cool.
It's crazy, man. It was like so cool, and I'm surprised Disney is doing more of this. They have done it, but not like at the parks regularly.
Right.
Next celebration, especially I've never been to Europe. Man, we were so busy, and I was so proud of like how good of a job we did for the podcast and Star Wars Newsnet, but I would like some more downtime. I feel like every night we got back so late where I didn't even want to go to the bar to hang out with people. I was like so beat.
We didn't get to go to the pool. I was like so disappointed.
We didn't do the pool, yeah. There wasn't really a lot of downtime at all. There was even some stuff like walking the show floor I didn't get to do enough of.
We only saw that first aisle, really.
Yeah, but so I'm gonna try to make it an effort to commit less to stuff and maybe like one less meetup or something and whatever, but still no regrets. I had a great time and I look forward to the next one. I do miss a lot of people already, even you two, but here we are, right? Thanks to the magic of technology. And
you did come to my house for your Top Gun poster, so we have seen each other.
We have, and I gave it to my brother and he was just so touched that I gave my poster to him.
Was he hyped?
He was, yeah, because he already, like, I got my brother into Top Gun, but he took it to a new level. And
he calls himself Maverick.
Well, so he changed his name on Facebook so his students wouldn't find him. And so he just put Maverick on there instead of his real name. And then his bar is Top Gun themed. He calls it Top Gunners. And I bought him the first Top Gun poster and framed it for him, so now he could put that one next to it. Just complete
nice
the deal. And I gave him the pin too, so he's all set. He's swagged up for Top Gun. But speaking of swag, we do have 2 giveaways to announce before we hop into the Resistance report. So Lacey, why don't you tackle our Bandai Namco giveaway?
Well, why don't I tackle the YouTube one, because that's my poster.
Oh, okay. All right. James, do you want to do the Bandai, or do you want me to do it?
You can do it. All good.
All right. Well, before celebration, just before, we had tweeted a giveaway where you could win the Mandalorian and Grogu exclusive Bandai Namco item for Star Wars Celebration. And all you had to do was follow us, retweet, and comment with your favorite GIF from The Mandalorian. And many, many, many of you did, but there is only one winner. And that person is Ride a Rancor. At Ride a Rancor, Kevin M. Congratulations, Kevin. You have won the Bandai Namco Ronin Mandalorian Beskar armor and Grogu figure set. Congratulations. We will be in touch. We'll DM you. And if you do not respond, we'll give it to somebody else. So, Kevin, I hope you're listening.
Please respond.
I hope you... Yeah, there have been people over time who never responded, and we wound up giving it to other people. So make sure, if you're not listening, Kevin, or watching, check your Twitter direct messages, but we'll get in touch. So congratulations. Thank you to everybody who entered. Obviously, as we always say, there will be more giveaways coming, but we're not done yet. I'm going to swing it over to Lacey for our Andor poster winner.
Yeah, so we got a poster at the Lucasfilm Showcase panel. I have so many posters as it is. I want someone else to enjoy it that couldn't go to Celebration. Hopefully this person didn't. I don't know if they did or didn't, but that was the plan anyway. So the winner from YouTube, which was, I believe, what did we have them say? Like the best thing from the panel or the thing they were most excited about?
Mostly looking forward to, yeah.
Nice. So the winner of the poster is nerdy_Seb at Seabass81300. Congratulations.
That's a name I've not heard in a long time.
So nerdy_Seb, send us an email, resistancebroadcast@gmail.com, and we'll get that out to you.
And yeah, their comment was they're most excited for Andor. So I think they're going to like that poster. Yeah.
Enjoy.
All right, cool. So we gave away stuff. Everyone's feeling good, vibing. James, do you remember how to do the Resistance Report?
It's the Resistance.
What if I just completely botch the Resistance Report? I'm like, what am I doing here? No.
Well, there was one time
guys,
you weren't here, me and Lacey were doing it, and I was like, so wait, when do I like ask Lacey what her thoughts are? I don't know what to do.
We got a couple different stories here. First one is kind of coming from a report from EW on The Mandalorian and how it's, or I'm sorry, ET, and how it's coming up. They got to speak with a lot of the cast, and we got a lot of insight onto how they are feeling as we move into the next season here. And I mean, when I say they talked to everybody, it was, Giancarlo Esposito, Emily Swallow, Katie Sackhoff. There's a lot of comments in this, including Pedro Pascal. It's like everybody was talking about what their impressions of the third season are and how they differ from the other two seasons thus far, the direction they're going, kind of thing. A lot here. I'm going to start with John on this one. Were there any particular quotes that were notable? And how did this kind of compare to maybe like what we saw at Celebration in the room, and you're like, that's the vibe I got too. So it's dead on, or this changed things up.
Yeah, two things really stood out to me. I mean, obviously, there is a consistent tone and attributions being applied across the board from the whole cast, sweeping in terms of what this is going to feel like and be like, which seems like it's going to be very, Empire Strikes Back, Last Jedi, like this is the dark, part of the story, and things are going to get really messed up here, more than you thought they were before. But my bigger takeaways were Giancarlo Esposito, because he's typically the most candid and revealing. His quotes are often longer, and you get a better understanding of what he's actually saying. You don't have to read between the lines. He's like, yeah, I think my guy's in jail. He's behind bars, and he's like, we could maybe see him escape and get out. Like, he doesn't seem frightened at all about NDAs or anything. He seems comfortable in his own skin talking about his character. And he's also just very lighthearted about it. And I always draw myself most to those types of actors who talked about this stuff without too much secrecy or too much seriousness. And he's having a lot of fun with it. And I'm really, I love, the introduction to that character. I didn't like his ending in season 2, but it sounds like there may be more to come from him and learning more about what he's all about and who he may serve. And then Pedro Pascal just throwing it out there. Robert Rodriguez did too for Book of Boba Fett, saying, it's going to be, great and all this stuff like that. And I guarantee it. And I don't know, people were mixed on that, but Pedro Pascal says this is going to be the best season of The Mandalorian. And that's big shoes to fill because everybody seems to love The Mandalorian. So, but what we've seen in that footage does align with a lot of what we're seeing from these quotes, which is bigger, better, grander, fuller, more depth. And I'll never forget, because I still think I've only seen it the one time, that footage of The Mandalorian they showed at Celebration. It felt like it was a different show. It felt like they did make a movie based on The Mandalorian and just upped everything, made everything bigger, louder, more expensive, more expansive, and the stakes seem higher, and everything seems on edge with a lot of these characters, especially Bo-Katan. And again, she was one of the only ones they brought out during the big Lucasfilm showcase. So that to me, like one of you brought up about Genevieve O'Reilly being a big part of Andor, because she was the one that joined Diego Luna on stage. Katie Sackhoff's really the only one who came out to represent The Mandalorian, along with Favreau and Filoni at the showcase panel. Mm-hmm. So I think she's going to be a massive part of season 3. And I'm a little curious. I think she may go the dark way and Mad Queen sort of thing, like Daenerys in Game of Thrones. But for some reason, I'm hoping she does, but comes back, and there's a redemption there, or a return to form. So I'm not really sure, but those are my biggest takeaways. I'll chime in once everyone else gets an opportunity to dip in here.
Lucy, you got anything in particular on any particular comment that stuck out to you?
Yeah, I mean, the Bo-Katan stuff definitely stuck out to me because we see her at such a weird place at the end of season 2 of like, she can't have the Darksaber. What does that mean? What does that mean for her and the history of her people, and where is it going? Yeah, the awkward stare.
She's like giving that like
so
side
it
look,
is,
like she knows.
Yeah. It is interesting, like John said, that they brought her out for that showcase panel, because as we saw throughout the weekend, they were like, oh, Rosario Dawson is busy, and then she showed up the next day. Oh, so-and-so is busy. And so I think they strategically picked certain people to bring out for certain things. So the fact that they brought her out and she was in the footage and she's on that throne in the footage that we saw very much says to me, like, we're going to get more of her and more of where she's at. And that's reflected in the quotes from Katie Sackhoff, which is like, she's not done yet. It makes us question where she is. When we first meet her, she's in a completely different mindset than she is now. So it's going to be interesting to see where her character goes. The other thing that really stuck out to me was Tamara Morrison talking about how he wants Bad Boba back. He just had a whole series where, which by the way, I'm going to make a quick side note here, which I'm glad he brought this up at Celebration, and I hope people really listened to it, is when he was on the Celebration live stage and he talked about how people called him Boba Fett, and then he was working out like crazy to look better on camera because clearly that hurt his feelings. Like,
oh, really?
People need to realize what you say online is seen and heard by these people, and they're human. So just like, be nicer. And I'm not saying that's our listeners. I'm just saying in general, because that was really heartbreaking to have him see. He made it into like a joke thing. Like he was like, I was bench pressing and I was doing all these things. And I'm like, that's so sad though, that like he felt that insecure about it. That was like, oh, I need to get a trainer. He looks amazing though. So the work paid off.
Yeah, dude's like 61 or something.
Yeah,
Jeez.
He looks great. He looked great before. He looked great now. Awesome. That being said, it is interesting that he did bring up wanting to see the old Boba Fett back. He's like, yeah, the new one was great, but I'd like to see the old one. And I'm like, ooh, what does that mean? Where are we going with this? Is that like him hinting at what we're going to see? Or is that just kind of him manifesting or willing it into the universe with Jon Favreau sitting there being like, hey, this is what I want? Because we got a little bit of that in Mandalorian season 2, but then Book of Boba Fett was a completely different Boba Fett that I personally didn't expect. And I wanted more of the one we saw in the episode where he's backhanding stormtroopers and blowing them up. So I really hope we get to see that. Other than that, Pedro talking about Grogu, that's the thing that he always gets asked about. It's kind of like Ewan McGregor getting asked if he was going to play Kenobi again. Like Pedro's always asked about Grogu all the time and what that means for him. So he had a good moment of like, hey, it's who's protecting who type thing.
I think that's really interesting.
Yeah.
As Grogu
so why don't you
gets
take
more
it from
powerful. There? Yeah, his comments were, is his powers rise up. We've seen in the first 2 seasons that it felt like he was a child and Mandalorian was protecting the child. But as Grogu gets stronger, gets more aware, maybe even gets vocal, they're communicating a lot more. And at the end of the day, like Grogu's bringing down Rancors. So it's like already we've seen Grogu grow to an extent where his powers are becoming potentially too much for the Mandalorian. And that's where that like whole like Luke dynamic came in. It's like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with like a baby that is powerful like this. So I thought that was really interesting. My biggest takeaway from this article though is Giancarlo Esposito. And I'm like, he's back. It's season 3. I was so excited for him in season 2, and and he kind of got the short end of the stick on that season. I look at his comments now and I go, we want to see the mastermind. We want to see the guy. And I feel like this wasn't part of this article, but I feel like I saw something recently. Maybe John, you know what I'm talking about. Said something along the lines of like, he's more in control over a lot of groups of people than you would think. Something like that. Does that sound familiar?
It does. I can't pinpoint
what it was either, but I that thought plus these comments of him being the mastermind, I was like, I think Favreau hired this guy not because he was good. That's a great reason to hire him. He's very good. But I think he saw Gus from Breaking Bad and said, that's my guy, because I want that character.
Oh, yeah, we've always said that. That's literally what's, totally.
And so we felt like we were getting that in season 1, and it was leading that way in season 2, and it dropped off so quickly. I want season 3 to be good, but I'm scared that he's just going to be included because he's part of the cast, and his story is going to just be tangentially involved. Is that the right? I'm saying that right? When like the real takeaway from season 3 is going to be Mandalore and this other stuff over here. And like the Empire is kind of taking a back seat to the Mandalorian themes, which I love. But again, it's the one character where I'm thinking about how everybody's involved. I'm thinking about the armor, and I'm thinking about the Mandalorian himself and Grogu and Bo-Katan. And I'm like, I see where this is going. And the Empire is really getting pushed out of this. And it feels like Moff Gideon is kind of also getting pushed out of this. The only information or the only real connection here is that he's previously owned it and knows a lot about it. You know, like he seems like he was like somewhat involved in some of the Mandalorian stuff to begin with. I just want to see his character given his due. I think he's great. Yeah. And, I don't know, that was my big takeaway from the article. I like some of the other comments too, but just to move things along, that was my biggest walk away from it.
Yeah. It could be as simple as he's one of many under a directive of Palpatine to capture these creatures who have heightened force sensitivity and extracting their DNA for these projects. And that's why Grogu was grabbed and, you have something I want and all that stuff. Uh-huh. Or it could be more complex. I just, I think I said this when we first met him at the end after the first season. I think we were like saying like, shows always like feel like they have to. Now we have to go bigger. So here's the real bad guy, and then all of a sudden he gets diminished. I still want him to be that guy who showed up and did the whole like, I know you're in there, you're in there, you're in there, and here's the deal. I'm going to kill all of you. And just like that menacing, not Vader, but evil person.
The very calm, calculated guy.
Yeah, like Hannibal Lecter. Yeah, like I want that guy back. Like I don't want them to hux him. And it felt that way a little bit at the very end of season 2.
That's a good comp.
So I want the, bow to the First Order version of Moff Gideon as Hux was in like The Force Awakens. So I'm hoping they use his talents appropriately. It looks like this is a very much more complex story. At least visually it appears that way. We'll see where he fits in. But real quick on the Grogu thing, I just thought of that. So you said like taking down rancors, like, so that was like the first time he used his power to like nurture something, instead of like stopping it or using it to tear things apart or something like that. Like he eased that rancor using his power.
He healed
and put it to
Grief Karga.
Grief Karga, right? But that like from a distance thing, Like, I think the parallel was the Mudhorn and how he stopped that so Mando could kill it. How he took that droid thing and tore that apart.
He was kind of reflecting the energy Mando was putting out.
Right. And then he goes with Luke and learns about what it really means. And he comes back and he eases the Rancor, as opposed to saying, like, I have to just kill this thing or stop it. He's like, no, I'm understanding this now. And then he cuddles up next to it and stuff. Whereas on the flip side, Mando has this power he doesn't understand now with his Darksaber. So maybe it is Grogu who will teach him how to become the true Mandalore and like understand what he's supposed to do with the Darksaber and that responsibility and that power. So maybe they're starting to get a little closer in not so much father-son, but like just this bond between them that is almost mutual.
Two people just kind of on similar paths, even though they're very different. Yeah.
True. And I agree with that. There's also the line in the teaser, though, where she says, oh, you thought your father was the only Mandalorian? You know? You thought your dad is the only Mandalorian? Which implies this extra level of like, you know, that's Kylo holding out his hand kind of thing. It's like this alternative like view that Grogu might end up taking, like there's more beyond him, you know? I don't know what that looks like. Does Grogu go with somebody else? You know, I don't know what the angle is there, but while I agree with the two of them growing together, as seen here by Pedro's comments. Like,
but are they going to ultimately be pulled apart by their
I'm also
own stories?
looking at the trailer that's implying that there's going to be a little bit of split between them somehow.
Man.
It sounds good, man.
I wonder how long
based on the footage we
going
saw
to
too, like everything looks like it's another solid season of Mandalorian coming.
Yeah.
And what is it now? Is that a 2-year break, 3-year break? Two and a half?
It'll be, over 2, yeah.
Over 2, yeah.
Yeah, so December 2020 to February 2023. So 2 years and 2 months.
Yeah. Crazy.
It's just crazy. Yeah, it really is how long it's been, and we'll see how far they go. I wonder if it's still going to be 8 episodes. Like, there's a lot we aren't really sure about. And I have to watch that footage again. Like, it's still not out publicly, right?
Right.
Yeah, I don't
you got to
think so.
find it somewhere.
And I also don't know if the second
I only watched it the one time.
batch
and,
of
you're dropping
footage
these
got
quotes. I'm like, I
leaked
don't
as
even
well.
remember that. Or like, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot she said that. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But cool.
All right, well, moving on to our next story here. And we did talk a little bit about this on our TRB Live episode when we were discussing the Kenobi. Bonnie Piesse has been talking a little bit about her role as Beru. She said, you know, this is what it was like when I got the call, how I felt like I was kind of thinking maybe it's this Kenobi thing I've been hearing about. And she also, I think the big takeaway for probably all of us, I mean, it's the headline here on StarWarsNewsNet.com, is that she's teasing a larger role in the second half of Obi-Wan Kenobi, which at this point, there's only 2 episodes left and she has 0 lines. So she's either going to get cut from this series like she was announced and they thought they had it in and they did lines with her and then she just doesn't know that they've cut her, or it's probably more likely that she just is going to have a big scene here at the end, probably with Luke, because that's obviously what she's teasing here, you know, about the relationship between Beru and Luke in A New Hope. So it seems like that's probably the angle they're going with. We'll see if it ends up in the show. But Lacey, what were your thoughts on Bonnie Piesse's comments on just Kenobi in general?
I think it's kind of weird that she hasn't really been in it yet. I mean, we saw Owen. We've seen kind of every piece of this, but we don't ever see her. I don't think we even saw her when Luke was outside because he was with Owen. So it is weird. But when we meet her in A New Hope, she definitely has an understanding of Luke that Owen clearly doesn't have. So the question is, how did she get that understanding? And I think Bonnie does a great job in this interview of explaining, like, she is the mother figure to Luke. She cares for him. That's from the moment she was given this baby. that's all she's cared about. Now, as a mother myself, I completely agree. It's like, that's all that matters is your baby. So I'm interested to see when they're on screen together, how that's going to translate, because we've seen how Leia interacts with her adoptive parents and how she feels like she doesn't belong, but we don't really get that same feeling from Luke. He gets that it's aunt and uncle and that obviously they're not his real parents, but it's not that kind of pushback that Leia has of like, I don't belong here. I don't want to be here. He's just kind of accepted it more. And I think that's due to the fact of someone like Aunt Beru, who's so supportive and understanding and nurturing and caring, because she did want a baby. They obviously, Bale and his wife wanted a baby as well, but I don't know. It just seems like they're just closer than Leia and her mother, but she's closer with the father, whereas Luke is not.
Having Luke so much in, or having Leia so much in this show makes me wonder if there's going to be some sort of thing, kind of like what they did with Ben. He's like, I think I had a brother, you know, kind of thing. It almost makes me wonder if they're going to say something about Leia. Obviously not to Luke because we know the story, but like if he says like, do I have any other family besides my mom and dad or something? And he's like, they just ignore it or something. I don't know. It's just kind of interesting
because he doesn't bring it up until Return of the Jedi, because originally she wasn't his sister.
Yeah, I know. I guess I'm just thinking like if he were to say like, I know my mom, I know I had a mom and I know I had a dad, but did I have any other family? And they go, no, you know, like or something like that, which would make us feel emotions because we've been clearly watching Leia the whole time. I don't know. But anyway, I'm just excited to see this scene. I'm excited to see the young Luke. And
me too.
In particular, Bonnie Piesse here, like getting some lines and becoming her character again,
hopefully,
which is
fingers
great.
Crossed
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. John, I think you've been championing this probably more than anybody. Her coming back. What are your thoughts on Bonnie Piesse's comments here?
Yeah, I think it's really important because we have a full grasp since A New Hope of the relationship between Owen and Luke. Owen cares about Luke very much, but he's also very strict because he knows what Anakin turned into, and he wants to try to keep Luke on a leash and like channel whatever his potential is to keep him safe. And that's not the best thing to do with kids, but sometimes, you know, as a parent, and I'm always telling my son like, get off that, don't stand on that, you know, don't touch that, or stuff like that. And it makes him want to do that more. And you still, at the same time, you're still saying it. And you're like, oh, man, I'm not sure what to do here. So that's like Owen's struggle. But then we don't really see Beru's relationship with Luke directly. We just see her talking about him. Really, their only engagement was tell Uncle if he gets a droid, make sure it speaks Bocce. And that's the extent of what we know of between Beru and Luke talking. And them. Yeah, and them
Luke.
at that... Right.
But he's also, if you go back and watch the scene though, he is more kind of like, okay, with her, whereas with Owen, he's kind of like, That's sons with mothers versus sons with fathers. Yeah. That's me and my dad are kind of like that. Me and my mom are like that. And my mom was always the one who was like, you know, yes, chase that dream and do that stuff. My dad's like, wrong wrench, bring that one over or something, you know. So I relate really well with how those dynamics went, but I really think it's important for us to see more of Beru because she hasn't really been shown at all. And I like what Bonnie Piesse is saying about how she just wants to be Luke's mom and her number one priority is Luke. And that's not to say it's not Owen's, but he goes it about a more rigid way where she's probably coming from a more nurturing angle because she knows what his destiny is and what his natural path is, and she's not afraid of that. Where I feel like on the opposite side of things, Owen is very afraid of that, and he's handling it the way of like, let me restrict him. And yeah, next year you can go to the academy next year. And then like he's thinking to himself like, all right, I'll tackle that next year. So now I have another year not to worry about it. And we'll keep him here on the farm, keep him to work and stuff like that. Where Beru knows the inevitability of Luke's going to go whether
we want to or not, we're going to go to his bed one day and it's going to be stuffed sheets and he's not going to be there. And I think because she knows that, she can care for him from a very natural perspective of love and nurturing and care, and not the fear of, what he's going to be. And maybe that's because she has more faith in him and what, that he's not going to turn out like Anakin or something like that. But I want to see all of that, because I feel like we see so many father-son relationships in Star Wars. There's not a lot of mother and sons, and the one that comes to mind the most, because we didn't really see a direct Leia Ben Solo thing or Kylo Ren thing, is Shmi and Anakin. Mm-hmm. And how Shmi was with Anakin saying, like, go chase your dreams, go. He's not meant to be a slave. He's better than this. And I think we're going to see a parallel between Shmi and Beru that is going to put a nice closure on that relationship, because ultimately we know the tragic ending for Beru and Owen, which ironically sets Luke off into his destiny. But I think it's going to be nice closure for fans to see big moments and heartful moments between Beru and Luke, because we're seeing them with Obi-Wan Kenobi and Leia. I mean, which like, who knew we see that? And that's tugging at our heartstrings to see him and his actual mother, so to speak, even though she's his aunt. That might get some tears in the room if they do it the way I think Deborah Chow and Joby Harold handle it. So I'm curious to see what we get in these next two episodes, but I hope it's a lot.
Like, we all know this, but it's one of those things, like, every once in a while we are reminded that Star Wars was the way we understand A New Hope today was not how they understood A New Hope in 77. It's like those conversations of he's just got too much of his father in him, and it's like that was never intended to be Vader, and it was never intended that the prequels and Obi-Wan dropped him off, like even the fact that, like, Obi-Wan, how even confident were we that when they made that movie, it was like Obi-Wan was watching over Luke? It was probably still just also kind of like he was over there. He also lived on Tatooine. It's like so much of what we understand about A New Hope has been dictated and chiseled away to be what it is based on everything else that came after it, specifically Empire and Return of the Jedi, and like Luke and Leia's relationship as well. So it's like, it's just so nuts to think, like, when those people were filming those scenes, Owen and Beru, back in the day, and it's not even her voice, that's crazy too. They dubbed her over. And it's like, and now we're looking at those scenes and we're like, these relationships are so crazy and in depth and stuff, and like what we're pulling meaning out of those phrases. I love Star Wars for that reason. I think that's just is so much fun to kind of reinvent what we have based on new information and the new stories that we get, and also still re-examining it from like how it was originally invented and intended. And now we think of it just like that's fact, but like when people watched it back then, or when they were making the movie, it was like not that at all. They just had this other wide idea of however the actors were kind of writing the stories in their heads or whatever, or however George pictures it. I don't know, and he hasn't really made up his mind yet, so it's kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Now, speaking of a ton of different stories and ways to take Star Wars, we have a rumor right now that we just wanted to talk about it because it does involve a live action show that's coming up called The Acolyte. And now there is a possibility that they're going to be bringing in some of the Legends Sith. And the reason we bring this up is it's not just like, there's a rumor that they might be bringing in Revan. This particular quote was from it was Skylar Schuler on their he's a co-founder of Diz Insider. Yeah, and he was doing a podcast and they were just talking a lot about stuff. They were doing some speculation, but he particularly says that they're not just doing like Darth Revan. It's Revan, it's Bane, it's Nihilus, it's Malak. It's you're looking at all of those characters being brought in one way or another into the Acolyte. Now he even says himself, we'll see. This is kind of a rumor, but it is very interesting. Just because I think there's a lot of question marks around the Acolyte. So John, I'm gonna start with you on this. There's a little bit more to the story if you want to get into it. If we can towards the end there.
The other part is more exciting to me than this part.
Is it? Okay.
I'm gonna be honest.
All right. Well, let's talk really quickly about this thing then, and maybe we can take the other angle. So John, what are your thoughts on the Sith lore and how it will connect Legends stuff and being brought into canon through this show?
It makes me a little nervous because it seems like Old Republic people and people who like these Legends Sith lords are very protective of that stuff. And I don't know that in my experience with like fandom and stuff like that, those are some of the more vocal fans when it comes to criticizing how they handle things in new canon, so to speak. Which is really just canon. There was never like an old canon. Like nothing that was old canon is not canon anymore. It's George Lucas's movies and his show, and that's it. But when you hear names like Darth Revan and stuff like that, fans already know that character and who that character is, and anything they do that deviates from that will cause a storm, and that's just how it's going to be. We're going to have to prepare for that. So it really depends on what they do and how they use it. If it's more referential stuff, I think that's really cool. If they go full bore and are like, we're going to bring this character in and they're going to be a main figure here, then that could be very, very interesting. But then again, I go to that thing we were saying, it might have been off air, we were saying a lot about ratios on what they should do for new versus old.
That was a poll chat, a Patreon poll chat.
I was in our Patreon thing. Yeah, I don't know. We're visiting these eras that we haven't explored, and we're talking about bringing in these characters that were in these other versions of Star Wars storytelling. And I don't know that it necessarily excites me that much, to be honest with you. I'd rather give me someone I've never seen or heard before and let us all learn who that person is together. Because there is no preconceived notions or established understanding or attachment to a character. And we can all say, no, this is just that person. Like Reva, I was like, that's great. We have a new character. We're all experiencing this together. There's going to be people who don't like it and people who do, but you can't say that's not my Reva or whatever. It's just like, no, that's her. That, whether you like it or not, that's it.
Hashtag not my Reva.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah. So my instinct, believe it or not, is cool, I guess, but I'm not like overhyped on it. And I'm not saying, these guys are just putting baloney out there. They're good folks over there. And, I've talked with them a lot in the past and they've gotten a lot of stuff right. So I just mean, assuming this is true, I don't know that I'm overly excited about it.
I do quickly, because we can move to the other thing too. I do think this makes a lot of sense to me. And I'm kind of basing that on the Clone Wars stuff that happened involving Darth Bane. If you don't know, if you want to refresh it really quick, like Yoda just goes to a situation and he kind of has this conversation with Darth Bane. It's not really him. It's sort of like his evil dark spirit. Like he's been summoned, or he's kind of protecting some Sith artifacts to some degree. Mm-hmm. And I just think that when there's like a little bit of leaked information, I bet you look at the names and you're like, oh my God, I'm going to write a report. I'm seeing Revan, I'm seeing Malik, I'm seeing Nihilus, right? And then there's this other one, I don't know who that is. Well, that person is probably the main character of the show or the main bad guy. And that's a new character that they're bringing in, but they're going to, at times, I would imagine, call upon the Dark Lords and the spirits and convene with some of these older ones, and they can pull them in when they want to do them. And it's a reference. It gets people excited about the possibilities of that stuff, but it's not actually them. It's like their spirits or the consciousness and things like that. And that's how those names are being put down to paper, and then they're getting like leaked. And I think that gets people excited, but I don't think it would make no sense to have all of these characters all be in the show at the same time. So I think these are like long gone, like avatars, if you will, that you can every once in a while convene with and kind of talk with on the dark side of like a Force ghost kind of thing. I think that's what's going on here. So I think we are going to get that main character, that new Sith character that we want. and still get a little bit of a taste of like some of the old Republic that
and
they
that's
could
cool
go
with
in.
me. Yeah.
So the other thing that they talked about, I'm going to give it over to you, Lacey, because you were the most excited about this, is the possibility of some new set locations for movies and TV shows.
Yeah, I think the first part of the story is cool. I'm a big Revan fan myself, but it seemed like a very obvious choice to me for the Acolyte. I was like, yes, that makes sense. Like you were saying, James, like, of course they would do this. This second part is very interesting because obviously before we do the episodes, we read all the articles, we go through everything. I had actually seen this said by someone else that was reliable, that said that goes even further than what is said here. So the rumor is they were saying on Diz Insider that Galaxy's Edge and the planet called Beru will appear in a Star Wars show. They then go into, it could be, this or that, Skeleton Crew, Ahsoka. Mm-hmm. The tweet I saw from someone that has done a lot of big interviews with celebrities and has a lot of inside information was that it's going to be Mando. It's going to be the Mandalorian that this takes place in. And the way they had phrased it wasn't Mandalorian. It was like a top prestige Star Wars show, which it like made it very obvious that they were talking about the Mandalorian. Like it's the top one. Obviously, it's not Kenobi. Kenobi just happened.
Not Frick.
not Frick. Not
right.
Babu Frick.
Okay.
No. Are you saying Freck or Frick?
Frick.
Like Babu Frick.
Yeah.
Like Frick.
Okay.
I already forgot about Freck. Seth Rogen pig.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's super interesting to me because I remember, I would say about a year ago, we got a viewer question that was asking if we thought we would ever see Galaxy's Edge in the show. And I remember I adamantly was like, no way. There's no way they're going to shoot that there. Like, yeah, it looks great, but like, how are they going to empty the park? They never close the park, whatever. We were just at Disney. They opened the park at 7:38. They could get a crew in there at 5 a.m. when it's just getting light out. They could shoot for a couple hours and get everybody out of there before the park even opens. So,
or it could take place at night, and they could just
Or it could take place at night, yeah. Or at night. And from what a conversation the three of us have had with someone in California is that they have all these union laws and stuff where they can't go very far for shooting locations, and that's why they're shooting in locations that everyone's like, wow, that's my backyard. Wow, that's over a freeway. Wow, that's there. So if they were really going to shoot in Batu and use something that does look set ready, I saw it myself like a couple weeks ago. Mm-hmm. Yes, that would make sense. And they're introducing the Mandalorian in that space soon. So now you're going to have that connection. If he does go there in the Mandalorian, now he's walking around and they're going to have a Grogu meet and greet eventually. That maybe this was already in the works anyway. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. They're already pushing that Star Cruiser hotel into stuff, so it doesn't surprise me that they would put this in the Mandalorian.
And yeah, it makes sense from budgetary perspectives. Like you literally don't have to build a set,
right?
Just be like, there we are.
Yeah,
we're in Batu.
I do understand those angles of it, and I think this is fine. They can do this. My only, I guess it's kind of happening, but I was going to say slight disappointment is that it would be like Mandalorian or Book of Boba Fett. I'd like to see it further away from the timeline that Batu is set, because I know that Batu, the Black Spire outpost, has been around for a very long time. So I would think it would be even cooler to see it like in the Acolyte. And then it's like, man, this thing has legacy. Like when I see it there, when I see what will become Oga's Cantina, that's cool later, to know like
when does the book take place? The Crash of Fate or whatever it was, right?
Those take place all like right around the Last Jedi stuff. Yeah, all
James,
that.
From a marketing perspective, money situation, if you wanted to get more bodies in that park, would you put it in a show that you don't know if it's going to do well, or your number one show?
I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying.
I hate to say that, but like
I don't
Disney
look at
does
it
think
at that
that
angle.
way.
I don't think they're looking at it like maybe they are, but like I I don't think they would be saying we need to get more people into Galaxy's Edge because we're not selling enough tickets or something like that. So they're wedging it into the show.
I'm saying someone goes, well, why don't we get Galaxy's Edge into something? And they go, well, why not The Mandalorian? Because that's our most popular show.
Yeah.
That can literally be a call down from the top because they're the ones footing the bill.
We're going to see Mando and Grogu walking out of Oga's cantina.
Probably.
It might be Oga's. I don't know how long Oga has been around or been like ruler of Black Spire
Imagine
Outpost.
he's eating a Ronto wrap.
Is Oga only named Oga because it's the word ago backwards? Is that what's going on here?
Ago?
Yeah.
Like
a long time ago.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe. But no, I guess I'm just maybe I'm like a little naive on it. I just think it's one of those things where like somebody was writing and they were thinking of planets and they're like, I think it would be cool to go to Batu
at all. I'm thinking it from like, hey, Disney likes money.
I think there might be a little bit of an angle here where like you guys tend to be a little bit more in the live action side and I'm like reading a lot of the books, and when I'm thinking about these books and they just randomly go to said planet or said planet here, you know, and then I hear the authors talk about it, it always kind of feels like there wasn't really like a plan. It's just the author, the creator, the storyteller, if you will, just thought it would be cool to go. And I think maybe I'm kind of coming from that angle. Like if one of these people who were writing Kenobi or Book of Boba Fett or The Acolyte or something, they just thought, let's write Batu into the story and then maybe I could save some budget. It makes sense. We already got the things. There's some connections there. That's just cool. And it feels like it went from that way up versus like top down. Like we want you to put this into one of our shows, into one of your shows. I don't know. And who knows?
Based on working with Disney at one point in my career, they're all about synergy and putting stuff into other things and like making it all connect in the way of like,
I mean, it's still synergy coming from the creator up.
I agree. I'm saying I don't think that's the case because it just seems to me, especially the Star Cruiser is like a prime example. I think that was a top-down decision. Like, hey, we need a story on the Star Cruiser. Who can write this story on the Star Cruiser? And an author stepped forward and said, I can write that story of them on the Star Cruiser. Or someone saying, hey, we have this. And then obviously during Celebration, I know it's obviously a coincidence that Celebration is happening, but Favreau and Filoni were in Galaxy's Edge. Like, yes, of course they go to Galaxy's Edge, but they could go anytime. That's where they live. So it's like, I don't know. It just seemed to me like it was like there are a lot of things. And then someone said that like comment about being prestige show. I don't see, no offense, I'm sure Acolyte's going to be amazing. I don't see that as like the top tier show that someone is claiming this is happening in.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I don't know. We will see.
It is weird. I'm not going to lie.
I like the idea. I think it would be really cool. And again, I think it lands in that space that a lot of people have problems with Galaxy's Edge. We haven't actually fully discussed that either. Like your thoughts on Galaxy's Edge now that you've gone.
Oh my God, we haven't. People have been waiting.
So it's like one of those things where like people say, I wish Galaxy's Edge was this place that I saw in Star Wars because then I could actually go to that place. Well, now it's kind of the opposite. It's like I've gone to that place, I've stood there, and when I'm watching my Star Wars, it shows up, and I've been like, I've been there. That's crazy. Like it's kind of it's a different view on that whole thing. And for a lot of other people, like younger kids who are watching The Mandalorian, and then later in life they go to Galaxy's Edge, it is that example. So I endorse this. I think it would be cool for it to show up in one or maybe even multiple shows, as long as it doesn't feel like the commercial. It just is a place that people go, you know.
Which the Star Cruiser did feel like a commercial.
Yeah, it's going to be hard for the Star Cruiser to not show up and feel like a commercial, but I feel like Galaxy's Edge is
a little different,
better at doing that, as pulling it off as like a real place. Maybe that's the books and other things.
Yeah.
But yeah. All right, that is it for the Resistance Report this week. Like I said, not a lot of news, but like a lot to talk about. There's some good discussion in there. Lacey, do you want to take us into our next section?
Yep, guys, it is time for the Patreon pod race. So there are lots of ways you can support us. You can like this video, comment, subscribe on YouTube, ring the bell for notifications so that you get every single video, because we're awesome. You can follow us on all the different audio platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc. Please leave a review for us. It lets us show up in searches and people can find us and join the community with you. Or on Twitter at RBATSWNN, or on Instagram at The Resistance Broadcast. If you want more than that and you want to support what we're doing here and you want to be a part of our community even more, you can head over to patreon.com/Resistance Broadcast. Starting at $2 a month, you get access to the page and everything that we're doing there with exclusive content, live streams, and much more. And as you go up in rank, you get more access, including a Discord server, which is bananas and awesome, live chats with us, chances to be on the show, and much more. So this is that chance right now, Patreon Podrace. So we let our generals and spice runners take part in our show. We ask them a question, they give us an answer. But before we get there, I want to thank those people. So thank you to our generals, Carmelo, John Reese, Jetta Rosewater, Paul Olson, Frank Grande, Darth Hurricane, John Charlton, Nick Kratz, Christian Morales, Brian Smith, Matt Chitty, Danny, Mike Ramori, Matt Heath, Chris White, Brendan McLaughlin, Count Pepto, and Val Trichkoff. Thank you guys so much. And to our Spice Runners, David Probus, Neil Shaw, Kendall Gelner, Ryan Warr, Dave Hornack, Micah Harrison, Thomas Hennessy, Andrew Staley, and now Jeremy Myers. Thank you guys so much as being Spice Runners.
Thank you.
And it's really exciting because we have our new general, Count Pepto, aka our buddy Luke, who did the pod race this week. His question was, you had the chance to ask Ian McDiarmid a question at his panel at Star Wars Celebration. If you had a chance to ask Emperor Palpatine a question, what would you ask him? Count Pepto, take it away.
Hi, TRB. This is Luke. Count Pepto here. My question to Sheev would be about his Sith grand plan. In episodes 1 to 3 of the prequels, I'd want to know if he came up with his plan for his ascension to power, if that was something from Plagueis that he built upon, or even a plan that was hundreds of years in the making. I know there's now no longer canon material that explains that, but I'd want to know his biased, one-sided, kind of juicy monologue explanation for that whole situation. And then who threw the biggest curveballs in the mix for his plans, who he hates the most for deviating his plans and how he had to adjust for that. If he wouldn't answer that question, I'd ask him what his favorite drink to order at a bar is. Probably something with prune juice because he's pretty old. But anyway, thank you so much, John, James, and Lacey, for everything you do. It means so much. Awesome to be able to meet all you guys from TRBS Celebration. Hope to see you guys soon. This is Count Pepto.
Awesome job, Luke. I really loved your setup behind you with all the action figures and stuff. I'm pretty sure you won one of our contests and I had to ship you a figure. I don't remember which one it was, but I'm glad that you got it. I remember so the story is, it was from Amazon, and you know how they take that picture and they're like, is this delivered correctly? Well, I was quickly glancing at it in my email, and obviously it's not my front door. So I was like, no, that's not my house. And then I realized it was his house, and I was like, oh no, go get it. But I'm glad I made it to you. So
was that
John,
the trivia? Did he win our trivia?
He did. So we do quarterly trivia nights with our admirals and generals and spice runners, and you could win prizes, and he won. So John, what'd you think of his answer as a fellow Sheevy Babes fan?
Right. I think we're due for a trivia one this month, so good time to sign up. Luke, you're hilarious, dude. I had such a blast hanging out with you.
With a great jacket.
Yeah, in Anaheim. Sweet girlfriend, too. By the way, congrats again. George Lucas gave you a Laserdisc version of Star Wars, so it's just fantastic that you won that at our event. But I liked your answer. I knew you were going to throw in some sort of humorous thing at the end there, and you did with the prune juice, so I thought that was pretty funny. But I like your question too, because those are questions I think about as well. You know, did he come up with it? Did he grab it from Plagueis? And I've always thought about, like, if they were to make a series, I feel like seeing where that guy came from, the overall villain of Star Wars, that would be the origin story I'd want to see over any. So it'd be cool to get the answers to your questions. So I really like everything you're putting out there. I think you did a great job for your first pod race. And thanks for all the support, man. Look forward to seeing you again, whether it's next celebration or a future meetup. But thanks for all the support. Great job on your first pod race. And See you around, buddy.
James?
You know what's a weird take on this question is that it's kind of nightmare fuel for me.
Right, because then he's gonna kill you after he answers it.
So like I've obviously like been in situations near people who have dressed up like Palpatine and stuff. I'm like, oh, that's cosplay. It looks pretty good or whatever. But I've never actually tried to visualize standing in the room with the actual Emperor himself and talking to him and expecting like answers, like an interview. And it actually is pretty terrifying. And
True.
So, but I really like the question because I've often wondered about that. Like, it seems like did other Sith not have grand plans? Like, what were they doing? It seems like they were just passing it off. And then he's like the, I don't know, like the end result of all of the things they've done. I'm all of the Sith or something. Like, I don't know what it is, but like, as soon as he like was in his 40s or 50s, he's like, grand plan time. And like everything went exactly according to plan. And he took over the entire galaxy. And it's like crazy that no Sith had ever done that in like eons, or whatever. So it's like, I don't know. I'm really interested to see if that was like Plagueis' plan or it's been the plan for a long time. And he just it was the final straw where he finally got to 100% power and was like, yep, we're there. Let's do it. Or if he was the only one that was ambitious enough to be like, I don't know why we're like not doing anything. I'm doing something. And just pulled all the strings and was, smarter than any other Sith. They probably could have done it, but he was the only one who did. So I don't know. I'm very interested in that story. So I think that is probably the best question that you could ask Emperor Palpatine. And then you would die. So
yeah, right. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, you're gonna die as soon as you ask that question. He's gonna tell you, and then he's gonna be like, now I have to kill you because I've told you.
I'm a gun die.
But
there you go.
But great job, Count Pepto. We really appreciate it. We love having you in the community. It was great to hang out with you. We can't wait to see you soon. Hopefully it's sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
But thanks so much. And now we're gonna head to John.
All right, here's the deal, folks. Ask the Resistance is back, baby.
I've been wondering, what are midichlorians?
It's late at my house right now. I can't yell. Breaking the fourth wall, recording a podcast. So yeah, we asked for your questions. You sent them in. A lot of people sent them in. So we may use them again for next week. So thank you everyone who replied. It's really cool. We really appreciate it that you folks do that. So thank you very much. We have some good ones here. Some familiar names, some celebratory names, and some old school names. So we'll get to the first one here. This one's going to go to you, Lacey. This is from a longtime listener of ours, Kylo Ten at Fulcrum Mandor. Famously asked James and Obi-Wan question at our first live event.
My buddy.
And she's back asking an Obi-Wan question, but this time it's going to you, Lacey. And the question is, which new character from Obi-Wan Kenobi is the most interesting to you so far?
Great question. I talked a little about this on our TRB live episode last Wednesday, and I'll probably continue to talk about this character for the rest of my life because she's that cool, and it has to be Tala. She is like one of the coolest characters to come out of Star Wars in ever. She has kept me guessing the whole time. She's not predictable. She's strong, smart, witty. She fights for what's right, which is, the theme of Star Wars. I just loved everything about her so far, and I've loved the way that she's been cast. I think the actress is amazing. In that scene where she's basically staring down someone who's second guessing her and then gets that guy to call her sir. Mm-hmm. It reminded me so much of like the Bill Burr scene in Mandalorian, which was so great, where he just kind of stands up for like, hey, no, I'm in charge right now. I'm in charge. That's a Finn joke.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, she's my favorite. I love Kenobi. I think little Leia is cute. Everyone loves her, obviously. She's great. But I think if I was to pick one character that's my favorite character coming out of this series, it's Tala.
Yeah.
Not a bad choice.
Yeah, I think it would come down for new characters like Reva and Tala, and man, like we talked about last week, she's so good. And
I think she's the best one in the show, honestly.
Yeah, and you make a good point that she does keep us guessing because I'm like, wait, was she? Screwing
Is she?
with Obi-Wan? Yeah, right.
I'm the spy.
All right, cool. James, this next one comes to you. Talk about bookends. Our winner of our YouTube contest got a question on the show. So this is your day, Sebastian. I assume that's your name. Nerdy_Seb at Sebast81300. James, do you think it's possible Quinlan Vos could have saved Grogu and was the one smuggling around the galaxy?
Yes. I mean, I think it's very possible. I love all these theories. Right now, Quinlan Vos is the hot name right now. It's been Cal Kestis. It's been Ahsoka. It's like, who do we think was the one that actually got Grogu out? And what's funny is it reminds me a lot of Mandalorian season 1. We see that little boy put into the cellar and the door's shut and then the boom and then it opens up and we're all like, oh, it could be Kenobi, it could be Yoda. I remember I was a big one that I thought it was going to be Yoda, and that was going to be the one that saves him. And then it opens up and it's like Death Watch, and it's like, did not see that coming. It's like that just it threw you so much that true. I think the real answer to this question is probably someone that we're not expecting. And right now, Quinlan seems like a hot answer. Like it's a good one. I'm going to say that it's probably not Quinlan, but if it was, perfect. I love it. It fits in, and that would be a great choice.
Yeah, I'd be excited to see that. So yeah, I like that. Thank you, Sebastian, and congrats again. All right, next up, I'll take this one. An old ally, Patrick Covey, again in 136. What's up, Pat?
He
How you
once
doing, buddy?
led
Hope
the
you're
resistance with us.
Yes, dude. Hope you're doing well, buddy. It's good to hear from you. And he tossed out there: is there something that you hope the Kenobi show should achieve before it ends? Which is tricky now because if the rumors are true that they're extending it, I'm just going to go based on this, what we know, which is this is 6 episodes. The Beru stuff I already went into, so I'm not going to repeat that. That's definitely up there for me. I think the other one is something that maybe is getting lost on some people because of a few reasons, like the relationship between Ewan and Hayden in real life, and constantly focusing on Obi-Wan feeling terrible and all the trauma about what happened with Anakin. But what needs to happen in order to fit the story is Obi-Wan needs to come to terms with that Anakin is dead and Anakin is gone and Darth Vader is evil and needs to be defeated. Because that is who we meet in A New Hope. He's more machine now than man, twisted and evil. That whole thing. Like, when we see Obi-Wan, it's not one of those like, Obi-Wan's never saying like, I'm going to get him back. Even through Empire and Jedi, he's like, you must defeat Darth Vader. You must do it. And Luke's the one who believes in his dad. So Obi-Wan has to get to a point now where he gets over blaming himself for what happened and says, no, he did this and he has to be stopped, or there's going to be worse things happening than what happened to him. And we need to see that happen in their final confrontation. So I think that is vitally important. And I think it'll be even bigger if what we've been saying is we see him look Anakin in the eyes with his mask off and, say that. Do the whole Darth thing, just like Anakin is dead. You are this person, Darth Vader, and I am going to stop you. We need to see that moment and carry that nicely into A New Hope. And, if they do continue Kenobi, obviously they have to keep that going. But we need that moment where Kenobi stops blaming himself, and it's enough, and he sees Darth Vader as what he is, Darth Vader.
I did not agree with you when you started, and then a few sentences in, I was like, that's exactly true.
All right. It's a good time to end the show. Oh, man. All right. So
let this sink in. James doesn't normally say this to you.
Yeah, we usually don't agree.
I'm joking.
I think some people think we purposely don't agree on things, but no, we often have opposing views on things. But it's good stuff, though. never contentious, usually. No, but thanks everybody for listening, watching, and being part of TRB. Like Lacey said, subscribe on your preferred platform. Star Wars Newsnet for all of your Star Wars news, reviews, editorials, information, and more. Store.resistancebroadcast.com. Are we getting Jacked Fish up there, James? Huh? Is he up there yet?
Oh yeah. I keep forgetting.
Yes, he is.
Yes, he is.
John,
So
I remember John making moves at Celebration. Like I overheard him talking to somebody like. They were like, when can I get that? And he's like, soon. Like, I think like right after Celebration or something. And I was like, we didn't talk about that.
He was campaigning, actively campaigning to people.
Well, people were coming up to me because I wore it at the event, and they're like, are you guys going to sell those? And I was like, yeah, I'm the guinea pig. I was here to try it out to see if you guys liked it.
Okay, one person said that. Every other person, you were like,
that's not true.
Did you see the shirt?
No, that's not true. Go ahead, tell her. You're out there, you're listening, you're watching. Tell her in the chat, everywhere. Tell her. Jacked Fish. Here to stay, but not in Kenobi apparently. Big missed opportunity. So that's basically it here from us. You can find me on Twitter at Johnny Hoey, writing and editing at StarWarsNewsNet.com, and movie podcast just like the movies. We're doing American Psycho next, which I'm not a big fan of, but we did do Top Gun recently. If you want to check that one out, because Top Gun, right? Jeez. James, how about you?
Well, speaking of Maverick, my Twitter handle is at Myra Trunks, not Maverick, but you can find me on Twitter and on Instagram at that handle.
Maverick Trunk.
Mm-hmm.
Lacey.
People could find me on Twitter and Instagram at Lacey Gillerin.
All right. And speaking of our event, next week on TRB here on Monday, we're going to be joined by Josh Robert Thompson, who lent his voice to us as George Lucas at our live event. So we're going to have some fun with him on the show. Maybe revisit George. Maybe George will appear. We're not sure. And I'm sure some other voices along the way. But look for our chat with him next Monday on the show. But of course, we'll be with you on Wednesday as we go live once again for TRB Live, 9 p.m. East on Wednesday. That is the 15th. And we're going to talk about part 5 of Kenobi. We're almost at the end here. So be sure to join us live there. But most importantly, we hope you have a great week, and we'll see you next time right here on the Resistance Broadcast. See you around, kids.